Hi, this is Cindy Harper, and I'm going to show you how to make a gluten-free energy bar that's similar to the Be Kind bar. Obviously, we don't want to take away from them because they're really, really good, but if you want to make a bunch of them at an economical price, then you've come to the right place. And we are going to use this wonderful honey. It's Nature Nate's, and we won these actually at Possum Kingdom. Every run that you run with Endurance Buzz, you get a honey when you finish, which is on the back of the little, they always give you a little wooden thing, and it says, "Sweet, you finished." So it's kind of a sweet deal. And we wanted to make use of the honey that we were getting for free, and so now we have to run to get our honey in order to make our gluten-free bars. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the ingredients that we use. Mostly it's all natural, and they are gluten-free, as I mentioned. Here I have, on this recipe that we're going to make a double recipe, and I've got 1 cup of pecan halves, 1 cup of salted raw almonds, whole almonds. We've got chopped walnuts, and then I have a 1/2 cup of the sunflower seeds. We've got a 1/2 cup of crushed banana chips. We've got a 1/2 cup of crushed or chopped pineapples. And then we have 1 cup of orange-flavored cranberries. Also, you're going to need for this ingredient to make it gluten-free the Erewhon Crispy Brown Rice Gluten-Free Rice Krispies. You're going to need some vanilla, pure vanilla extract. It doesn't have to be this brand. And then we, instead of eating peanut butter, we prefer almond butter. And I use the Maranatha, and then I got the caramel almond, so it has a little caramel flavor to it. It's really good. The beauty of this recipe is you do not have to use the choices that I'm using every single time. You can mix up your fruits and your vegetables. It's dried fruits, and as you can see here, I have a little bit of a smorgasbord of fruits and vegetables going on, or nuts, not vegetables. I don't know why I said that. But we like sunflower seeds, so I always put those in. You could go with, the Ocean Spray craisins, which I did not use for this recipe. But we went to Sprouts, and we got the orange flavored cranberries. We've got the pineapples, almonds, pecans, walnuts. We've also put peanuts in here. We've done cashews. You could do pistachios. You could even do some of the pumpkin seeds. Pretty much any thing that you want to put in these gluten bars. Basically, if you are going to do a double recipe, you're going to have 3.5 cups of seeds and nuts, and then basically 2 cups of your dried fruits. Okay, we've used blueberries in the past. Dried blueberries, they're a little bit on the expensive side, but they were really good. The pineapples are a little on the less expensive side. You could add coconut to it. So there's all kinds of combinations that you can do to make this recipe, to make it more unique in your own. We just chose this combination for today. Okay, some of the utensils that you're going to need probably are going to be a nice big bowl for mixing everything, all the nuts and this dried fruit and the cereal together. You're going to need a saucepan to melt your butter and honey. You're going to need a couple of spatulas. I have a small one and a big one, which work great. I've already got the cereal mixed out, and this here is 3 cups of the Erewhon gluten-free brown rice cereal. Okay. You're going to need something to measure your vanilla. It's going to be 2 teaspoons. All of this is going to be written down as well, so if you are not following along with all the proportions, we'll talk about it whenever I start making, but you can also refer to the written instructions. You're going to need some cooking spray. You're going to need some parchment or wax paper. It's that basic, paper that you can cook on. Again, parchment, wax paper. Recipes call it different things. It's the same exact thing. And then you're going to need either, if you're just making a single recipe, you're going to need an 8-inch square pan that you can bake in. I've chosen my porcelain bakeware. You can use metal bakeware, whichever is best for you. If you want to go the no-bake recipe, which I'll have a bake or a no-bake recipe that you can do, you could just lay it flat on a cookie liner and roll it out, but that's not quite as easy. We're going to go with the bake method because it makes a little bit of a thicker, more consistent bar. Okay, on low, medium, or medium-low heat, you're going to melt your butter, or your, either your peanut butter, your almond butter, along with your honey, okay? And it's going to look very smooth, kind of like what you're seeing here. You're going to just, keep stirring it, make sure that it doesn't scorch the bottom. You're going to keep stirring it until you start to see bubbles. And once you start seeing the bubbles, you're going to let it cook for about 1 minute, and then you're going to put in your salt and your vanilla. Depending on if you're doing 2 batches or 1 batches, you'll put in the amount according to that. But again, you do not want it to scorch or, burn the bottom, so you want to constantly stir and make sure that you just do medium-low, because if you cook it too fast, it will burn. And you'll start seeing the bubbles even when you're stirring. It'll start bubbling up. It won't really boil. You'll just start to see little bubbles or holes in the mixture. Okay, so after it's done cooking and you've cooked it for 1 minute with it bubbling, you're going to go ahead and pull it off the stove, and you're going to go ahead and put in your vanilla and your sea salt or your kosher salt. Depending on if you're doing a full batch or if you're doing a half batch, your measurements will vary. Okay, I'm doing a double batch, so I put in 2 teaspoons of the vanilla, and then I put in 1/8 of a teaspoon on the salt, because I'm using salted almonds, so I cut my recipe on the salt in half. In this big bowl is where I'm going to mix all of my nuts and dried fruit, which I've already pre-portioned out earlier, just to make it more simple. All together. And we're going to mix it all up, and then we'll put the butter on there. Okay. And here's the cereal, but we're going to wait and blend it in, because once you put the butter and the honey in there, it's going to get all sticky. So first, of course, I've already washed my hands, because I'm actually doing this with my hands, because it's easier just to mix it all up with my hands. Okay, so here you've got a nice mixture of the nuts and the fruit. Okay, and so we're just going to pour a little bit of the sauce in there, and kind of drizzle it on top. And now I'm going to pour a little bit of the cereal in there. And this time I'm not going to use my hands, because this will get very dirty. So now I'm going to move my spatula in there and start to mix it all together. And I might add that right before I started baking the butter on the stove, I did preheat the oven to 375. And I've already lined the bowls that I'm going to use with the wax paper. I am going to spray it here in a few minutes. I'm using one 9x13 and a smaller one, because it sometimes makes a little more, and I don't want them to be too thick, so that I can get more for my money. I'll make both of these. And this is going to make probably about 20 bars, the size of what you would see right here. 20 of this size bar. Or you can cut them in half, or you can make 1 inches if you're doing like a party and you want to serve several people, if they just want to buy it and want to try it. We're actually going to go to Trail Run tomorrow, so I will probably be cutting these in half for sure. Okay, so you can sort of see what the mixture's looking like now. So basically you're going to just do a combination. You're going to keep pouring the butter in. I say the butter and the honey, this sweetener for the... And then you mix in the cereal, and then you're actually just folding and stirring, just kind of in a circular motion, or maybe almost like you're folding it from top to bottom. It's going to seem pretty gooey, but then we're going to pour it in these and smash it down, and that's what's going to make the bars. So just continue to stir as much as you can until it's all melted, or until it's all blended really good. After you've folded all your fruit and nuts together with the butter and honey, you're going to fold it into your pan that we're going to bake it in, okay? Just fold it into the pan. You're going to flatten it into the bowl. You can even use a potato smasher to flatten it. Once you've poured it into the bowl, you're going to be sure and flatten it with your spatula as flat as you can get it, or as thick as you want to have your bars, okay? Again, like I mentioned, I like a little bit of a thicker bar. That's why I use a little bit thicker nuts, and I don't chop my fruit up as much so that I can have more of that fruity nut taste in the bars.
Potatoes masher.
Huh?
Potato masher.
Now, if you're having a hard time getting it smashed down, you could use a potato smasher once you kind of get it. You have to be careful though, because if you pull up, it may stick to the potato smasher. So get it, smashed in there pretty good. But these corners, you can do the potato smasher, or if you have anything else that's flat, you can use it. I just use this potato smasher because it works pretty good. If you don't have a potato smasher, remember, you could just use your spatula and just keep working at it. Because as the sweetener, which is the honey and the almond butter, start to kind of dry, it'll kind of start to form. You just want to make sure you get it as spread out as you want before it actually sets. Otherwise, you may just have a bar that's that thick. Okay, we're ready to put our first batch in the oven. And as you can see, it's nice and flat with the lined paper. And we're going to put it in the oven. I had preheated the oven earlier at 375, as I mentioned, right before I started melting the butter together. Now we're going to put it in the oven. Set it right there so that we can put the other one in. Okay. And now we are going to bake it in the oven for 15 minutes. Ready? Alrighty, so after you take it out, you're going to want to let it cool for about 25 minutes before you cut into it. And then, of course, you're going to want to wrap it in wax paper or put it in the refrigerator. After you bring it out of the oven, you're going to want to make sure you put it on a cooling rack, proper cooling rack, for about 25 minutes. Okay, so here we have our cooled down 2 batches of the gluten bars, completely finished. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to show you a quick way to cut them. And how we're going to do that is we're going to use the pizza cutter. So, see how easy that pops right out? And notice it already, the thickness I want. And I have a nice pizza cutter. Of course, you're going to make yours any size you want. I'm going to make them a little bit smaller because we're making them to share with a big group. Now you have your finished gluten bars. These are the 2x2s. And you could do like maybe a 2x4 or 2x6 or a 1x2, however you want, whatever size you want.